Hope you're doing well. So, coming to you live. I'm going to give people a couple of minutes. I'm on a bit earlier than what I thought. I thought I was 8:30 schedule, but 8:35. So I'll give people a couple of minutes just to come in. I wanted to talk to you guys. I've actually been today speaking to a nurse for this. We're going to call them Nurse X. I thought and hoped that she would come on tonight. She's too afraid to have her face on here. She's too afraid to have her voice on here, which shows you where we're at right now. Is this communist China, or what is this? What's actually happening here? We have these people that should be stepping up now, and they want to, but they just can't because they know they'll be deregistered. So I'm going to read excerpts from an interview I did with her earlier today. I'm not going to put on my nurse's voice or anything like that, but Nurse X was involved in the quarantine hotels where the people from the flats went to, from the commission homes, from the towers that got locked down. So she was working there with the hotel quarantine. So they were there working with the hotel quarantine. She was there from day one. So that hotel quarantine was set up by DHHS. Now, DHHS, she said to me, sent in any public service people from any roles around the country. So they had maintenance people, they had people that were from behind desks. No one had any training in hazard control. No one there had any training in regards to COVID-19. These are just regular schmoes that DHHS brought in to work in a COVID-19 pandemic situation. Now, she also said they used a lot of the flight crews. So a lot of the flight and cabin crews from airlines got recommissioned across to the hotel quarantines, and they were called authorized officers. So these flight control people from aeroplanes that got moved into these quarantine hotels, they got put there, and they were hey Salam, Desert Rose, they were put in there to be part of this COVID-19 crisis. This hotel, the quarantine hotel that she was working in, was a positive case only hotel. So the most deadly virus in the world, positive case hotel, and you're putting flight crew in to be the authorized officers, which are telling everyone how to run the show here. This is not on at all. And she was appalled by it. Now, the next thing she said was there was a DHHS team leader looking over all the nurses with no background either in hazard control, with no background at all in coronavirus. She actually said that quite a few of the people there had arts backgrounds and other things like that had nothing to do with coronavirus or anything to do with health. They weren't part of the health sector. She said it was disorganized. There was no policy and no procedures. There was no orientation training for any of them. And because of that, things changed daily. The Premier was the first person that said it on the TV for them to know what was going on in these quarantine hotels where the positive people were staying from the flats, the towers, the commission houses. They did get people moved out into there. We didn't see people going out, but they said they moved them out, so they must have moved them out during the night. Not a single person knew what their actual role was in this whole place. So she said it was an absolute debacle. So I'm going to read the next bit. It's all written down here. So the hotel opening, some of the nurses were down the front. Some of them had been working at the flats. Some of them had never done any coronavirus or COVID work before. Infection control was not in place. They didn't have any appropriate PPE, and what they did have, they didn't have enough of, so they were running out of it the whole time. On top of that, they only had half as many yellow bins as what they actually needed, and they ran out of masks at one stage because it was positive cases. Every time you touched or went near a patient, you had to throw it out. So it was discarded every day. They only had half as much as what they actually needed. So this just sounds like cover up and scam the whole way along, and that's what she said as well. She said as the people were getting brought in, they were coming in ambulances and St. John's vehicles. Their luggage was meant to be double bagged because it had been Corona had been near it, COVID, and positive tests all these people were. And they came in with their luggage out of these ambulances. The St. John's and the people in the ambulances just picked bags straight out with no baggage on them, no double bagging. And as well as that, the people just had a mask on, and that's it. These positive cases just had masks on when they were getting dropped off out of these ambulances and St. John's vehicles. So she said at one stage she actually had to go and buy bin liners herself to help them cover up these suitcases because she was trying to follow protocol. And she was like, what is this shit fuckery that's actually happening here? She said the Alfred head of control was overall, so the Alfred head of infectious diseases, the top person at the Alfred, who I'd love to bring on and talk to, said that he was overridden. He couldn't actually do his job because someone from above him, the premier, was making the rules. So the infectious disease control person didn't get to make any of the decisions at the quarantine hotels for all the positive people. So that's what was happening right there as well. The guests were given bags for rubbish in their hotel rooms, which they put their rubbish in, tied a knot in the top, and put it outside their door. Now, if you're working with an infectious disease, that's the most deadly disease in the world, how do you then wrap up your rubbish, tie off the top, and put the bag outside your door, sitting on the ground outside your door, if you're all positive people? It's so wrong, so wrong, so wrong. Infectious control person said that they had no control over that either. They knew it was wrong, but they were getting overridden, and this was the guidelines that were put in place for these quarantine positive hotels. The cleaners that they supplied and the security came from the company Spotless. Now, Spotless outsourced them to an agency, so it was outsourced. So this is even worse than the previous workers that they brought in. And they didn't understand PPE, and they had zero experience. So when she was asking these security guards and the cleaners if they had any experience with hazardous waste, they had zero experience, and they're working in a COVID positive hotel. What the fuck is this management doing? What is the government doing here? This is all wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It's a circus, and this is what needs to come out. And will this come out in the inquiry? I don't know. But at least now we've got nurses and doctors willing to step up and say something about it. Nurse X actually also said her application to work on the COVID cases, she did it online and over the phone with no training in hazardous waste at all. They asked questions about her as a her as a nurse, and that's it. Now, she started off swabbing patients in car parks. Now, when she did the swabbing back in May, she said there was 2 brands of swabs. One swab went just basically a little bit up your nose. The other swab had to go all the way up into the back of the nose and up near the brain cavity, she said. Depending on the swab stick, the company told them either just inside or right up inside the nose. There was a doctor there who could not believe the variation at the checkpoints. So different COVID testing stations have multiple different tests that people were using. She said that a lot of people there, including herself, was the first time ever they'd used these swabs, and they got no training in it. Zero training. So she then used it and put it up inside her own nose and said it hurt so much. And a doctor came over and said she wasn't even putting it far enough up. So she pushed it further inside her nose. So the inaccuracy that was coming up, the DHHS clinical lead said that it was 30 to 40% inaccuracy on these tests. 30 to 40% because of how hard they are to use was inaccurate. This is straight from the horse's mouth here, okay? Within the hotel quarantine, guests at different times were missing from their rooms without masks on. The reason being for this is that they didn't have enough security people for the floors. They brought in police to help. They didn't have enough to have 2 people on each floor of the hotels. So what was happening was people could leave their rooms at certain times. They couldn't watch them. Most people, she said, would stay in their room, but they had lots of accounts where people left their rooms and moved around. Okay? She said prevalent throughout this hotel quarantine, that was a positive hotel, there was anxiety, depression, and mental health problems. That was throughout the whole place. Mental health problems, anxiety, and depression. Now, they did have psychologists on hand, but not enough of them, according to her. So she said there were 80 plus people of positive people in these quarantine hotels, and there was mental health, anxiety, and depression that these nurses were trying to deal with. Hotel management, she did say, was amazing. The managers were amazing, and they tried their best to look after everyone. So that's actually fantastic. At one stage, she said that there was, while in the full PPE gear, someone came out without a mask and was ranting and raving. Now, she was right there in front of that person. 24 hours later, DHHS gave her a notice to say she had to go home and be isolated for 2 weeks. Now, the next day, she got a letter saying that they had not sent that, they'd misunderstood, and that she could continue to work. She actually said it was totally incompetent, and it was mixed messages being sent. DHHS, she said, was like a shitstorm. So that's what she was saying as well. So the next thing she said was supposedly Corrections Victoria is allegedly going to get put in, but there's not enough resources. Police were saying there's not enough resources, and what was happening there was security was sanitizing the outside of their gloves because they thought that's how it worked. Masks were getting put on inside out because people didn't have any routine taught to them as they went in there. She said there was a long chain of people, so everything that went wrong, and I found this at the towers. She went to the head of DHHS. They had to speak to another person at DHHS, to another person at DHHS. She said no less than 24 hours, even with a critical problem, to get it through the bureaucracy to get an answer. So that's where she took the lead herself. And she started teaching people how to use the PPE and how to do the donning and doffing of goods. Every time you put it on, it's the donning and doffing as you take it off. She had to teach people on the floor how this was done in quarantine. This actual Nurse X is an angel that was trying to help and make a difference. And this is the shit fuckery that's been happening. This is the incompetence that's happened in these quarantine hotels. She did say with the cases of the people in there, they were mild cases on all the people that were in there, the positive cases. And she said Panadol was used to treat them. So keep that in mind. The cases in there was Panadol. So you need to understand that's what was going on. And make sure that you understand that my opinion is that there is no virus out there. And someone just wrote that I'm saying there's a virus. No, I'm saying this is what the nurse said to me. And I've got another nurse coming tomorrow. Another nurse coming tomorrow is saying that the figures getting logged in, the figures getting put in for deaths in nursing homes, and the figures for in hospitals, she's seen people dying of heart attacks getting marked down as COVID-19. This is coming out, and this is another nurse, and I think I'll have her on the program tomorrow talking to us. The last thing I wanted to throw out there was this nurse said she's been taking hydroxychloroquine. Is it hydroxychloroquine? She's been taking hydroxychloroquine and zinc, and she never gets sick. She has been on a course of it since back at the start of this year, and she never gets sick at all. And she says that she thinks that is the way to stop this COVID-19. But it's being held back because as soon as they know that something can actually fix this, as soon as they know that there is something that can actually stop what they're calling the coronavirus, which I think still is the seasonal flu, as soon as that happens, the vaccine can't go ahead. That's it. That's what I got straight from the nurse's mouth. I implore all other nurses and doctors to come out and speak up. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly today is in the news, ScoMo is saying that there's intel coming through that ISIS is looking to start bushfires through Australia. I call bullshit. They've tried to break people on race. They've tried to now break people on religion. We stay united. We stay united because this is a load of crap. And they want to divide us with masks. They want to divide us with that. They want to divide us with every way they can. And I say, as I keep on saying, verily with hardship comes ease. This is a load of shit. Mainstream media is talking crap, and we need to come together. Come together 100%. I'm calling on all patriots. I'm calling on all true blue dinkum Australian Aussies to stand the fuck up and do something now. Call bullshit on this. Doctors and nurses, call bullshit on this. Rise up. Police and army, look and do a gut check and say, is this government doing what they should be doing, or are they being ruled by China or someone else? Look inside yourself and make a difference today. Peace out.